Hey, what's going on,
Okay.
guys? Mariano5 here for Raise Your Edge, and I'm here with FaLLout86. We're back again with another hand. This time it's submitted by one of our students in the Discord app, so this was played in a live 1-1 game. I'm not sure where this is in the world, but yeah, let's check it out. So first off, Jack's under the gun, and there's a straddle up, which you say that, so the effective stacks are a bit shallower. So he has about, I guess, almost 200 big blinds effective for his stack, although the players in the hand only have about 100, so yeah, keep that in mind. So obviously jacks, we're obviously opening, nothing to say here, right?
Yep, premium hand.
So yeah, open to 7. I like the sizing. Seems fine, whatever the sizing is in the game. Confident player calls. So what do you think about his range?
Yeah, in general, I think it's fairly nitty. I mean, especially when the straddle is on, people are
Yeah,
always a little bit tighter, and especially when he's competent, I think his range is mainly pairs, some suited broadways. That's probably about it. Or what do you think?
yeah, exactly. I definitely agree. Definitely like pocket pair heavy, I think, and then
Yeah,
as you say, suited broadway, maybe some suited aces, but probably
yeah,
not a
maybe
ton of.
some suited connectors like 10-9, 7-8, something like this.
Yeah,
Depends on the player.
yeah, for sure. And then to the confident player on the button, squeezes here, not a very big size. I think if I was him, I'd like to see maybe a little bit bigger because the other guy called, so maybe something like 4x would be a bit better, get a bit more fold equity, but it's whatever. It's not like super tiny. If he made it something like 20, I think it'd be pretty bad because then you'd be getting really
Yeah, I
good
think 30
price. But
bucks is probably a bit better. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, also don't mind 25.
And then what do you think back on us with jacks here? Obviously, I think folding's too tight, but what do you think about raising or calling her?
Yeah, I mean, poker is a game of ranges, right? So we need to think about villain's squeeze range, and I think his squeeze range will be fairly tight. So something like ace queen suited, jacks, queens plus. And when we think about this range, would be a terrible idea to 4-bet jacks and get it in. 4-bet folding jacks would be even worse. So I think calling's really the way to go here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially in like a full ring live game. I
Yeah,
think people are not gonna. I mean, if you play an online at six max tables, you can start four betting lighter, but then in that case, people are playing way wider of a range, and this guy's squeezing. So as you say, he's not going to have a very wide value range, and then even his bluffs are going to have decent equity. When you four bet, you're kind of just isolating yourself against the top of his range. So
yeah.
just call. I mean,
Out position against a good player, really, really hard to play.
yeah, it's tough. So we call. Competent player calls and flops 9-7-3. So obviously we're going to check here. No point donking out here because obviously the player on the button can have all the strong overpairs. So you don't want to donk into a really uncapped range like that. And now
Yeah.
they both check back. So pretty interesting. I think once the competent player checks back, I think especially in these live games, I don't think people are checking enough strong hands. Like I think it would be a good idea in his shoes to check the occasional time with like kings through aces, you know what I mean? But I think in these games,
Yeah.
I don't think people do that enough at all. So I really expect him to be pretty capped here, and I don't expect him to have overpairs at all.
Yeah, true, true. I mean, especially when he has no diamond, definitely a good idea to have some checks in his range when you want to also check all his give up hands on the button. But like you mentioned, always when he has anything, he's usually going to bet. So it's pretty safe to assume we have the best hand against the button. So yeah, we definitely only have to worry about the other player behind.
For sure, for sure. So good outcome. Turn four. I mean, this is pretty much a brick, right? I don't think it really hits anyone.
Yeah,
Competent player could
pretty good
have
card.
pocket fours, but yeah, I think it's pretty good. Like, what do you think here as far as betting or checking?
Yeah, I think we have to bet here. We are super high up in our range. We definitely can get some value from flush draws. And we also want to accurately protect against all those overcards against 10x, jack x. Well, not jack x, but queen x, king x, ace x. So yeah, I think we should definitely bet here. What do you think? How big should we size?
Um, I mean, I think if we're betting jacks, we're betting like kind of like this is probably one of our weakest hands we're betting. You know what I mean? So I don't think we necessarily want to go too big. I think if we were only betting like a really polarized range of like two pair or better, then I think I'd like to size up. But I think for including jacks, I wouldn't mind going, you know, not super small, but maybe not super big, somewhere between like 40 and 50, because we don't necessarily want to blow the pot too huge because we can run into sets and stuff. Our hand isn't that strong, but I think it is, as you say, a good idea to bet with like specifically like tens and jacks. I think with if we had queens, maybe even kings sometimes, I don't mind checking more often because they don't need as much protection. But I think here, as you say, we should be betting mainly, and then I think somewhere between like a third and 2/3, but not super big. I don't think, even though it is multi-way, just because on these dangerous boards you do have to watch out because if you pile a bunch of money in when there's straights possible and a bunch of draws, you're gonna isolate yourself. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is important, right? To not always go broke with an overpair only cause I have an overpair. This is not a good reasoning. So yeah, like you mentioned, probably also would opt for a half pot, something around this size, so 40, 50 bucks would be also my suggestion on this board texture. And we still get a lot of value from the player behind in, what is it, MP? Yeah, so we still get value from diamonds, hearts, and also worse pairs, right? I don't expect him to fold immediately with 5, 6s, 8s, 10s.
Yeah, for sure. So we end up checking, which, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that bad, but as you say, I think I'd rather start betting this mainly.
Yeah, also for equity protection. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And now competent player comes out betting half pot, so kind of interesting. I mean, now he's kind of saying he's not really betting too polarized himself. I think if he has a set in this spot, I mean, it depends. It's hard to say, right? But I think realistically, if he's betting like a really strong range of like sets, maybe some two pairs, if he has like 9-7 suited, say, I think most players will size up a bit here. So this hand kind of looks like mergy, this sizing, maybe something like pocket tens, maybe some 9x, maybe some pocket eights, and then you could also have a lot of draws. So at this point, I think folding's out of the question, and I think raising. I mean, I actually do think check shoving here wouldn't be the worst play because again, I think he is going to be betting a bit bigger with his sets. It's hard to say that as a definite read, but I think by check shoving we could possibly get called by like some 10s or 9x or some big draws. So I don't think that's the worst, but I think check calling is standard too. So I think either way.
Yeah, like you mentioned, when we know our opponent a little bit better and we know he's usually going for somewhat bigger size with stronger holdings, I would really love to see a check shove here because most people play fairly unbalanced, especially with big holdings on the turn and river. So like you mentioned, when the river bricks out, sometimes they will give up with their draws, right? So we just get more value and more protection from those hands. And he can still call with 10s and 9x from time to time. So yeah, but against an unknown, I would definitely prefer check calling to not isolate ourselves against a stronger range.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's a good point, like you said too. That I think one of the benefits of check shoving is, as you say, what ends up happening a lot is that people get to play pretty well on rivers, right? It's like when they miss, especially if they're a competent player, they're going to know, okay, I'm going to give up with a lot of my draws. But then when they hit, they're able to put the money in. So basically, you get into a guessing game a lot if you're always the one who's check calling. So even though the spot we do want to check call a lot, you should keep that in mind because people, I think, it's easy to become really passive, and then you always end up on rivers in spots where people are putting a ton of pressure on you. It's because you never really take the aggressive route on the earlier streets. So definitely something to keep in mind. But we call standard. So river, I mean, that's basically like the best river in the deck as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's really the best because now pocket fours are not possible anymore.
Yeah.
And of course, both flush draws and straight draws are rigged.
Yeah, so it's obviously check in and now the competent player shoves. So what do you think here?
Toss in this chip.
Yeah, I think so.
Because when we think about good rivers to call, we have the jack and we have bricks. So those cards are definitely one of the best cards because when the river is a heart, is a diamond. And well, a diamond is also not the worst, but also not our favorite because we have a diamond in our hand. Also overcards, right? Queen X, King X, Ace X are not our favorite. So, and of course the 4 reduces the number of sets because now pocket fours is only one combination left. We don't know if he's defending with all pockets in the beginning. So if he's flatting with 3s and 4s all the time pre-flop. So we're only afraid basically about 9, 7s, probably half of the combinations from 3s and pocket fours. That's about it, I think. So yeah, when the best river gets there, you should toss in this chip because I still think he can shove with his busted draws, and he will realize he has to put a lot of pressure on our middling type hand, like 8s and 6s and stuff like this, 9x, to get us to fold. So yeah, I think we have to make this call. Or what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. This is basically, as we said, we're pretty much calling the turn to, like, keep the pot small and also see what the river comes, right? When we're not calling the turn to then fold on the best river, like, you just have to call on the spot. Because again, there's just no better. I mean, obviously the 3 is a good card too, but really there's not too many better cards. And I think another thing too is that he could be shoving worse for value, right? That's a big factor too. He could occasionally have like 9x, ace 9, or pocket 10s, So if you beat some value and then you can have a bunch of busted draws, it's just we definitely need to call here. Unfortunately, the student ended up folding, which, I mean, it's, he's probably thinking it's obviously good to make tight folds. Obviously in spots can be good, but really thinking through the ranges, this is not one of those spots where you want to be making the tight fold. So
yeah, absolutely important here to bluff catch. I mean, in general, like you mentioned, people are under bluffing the river, but when all the draws brick, you play against an incompetent player that can shove with a lot of draws and busted hands. Yeah, you need to make this bluff catch, and it will be really profitable.
Yeah, for sure. So tough hand. Unfortunately, we don't know what the guy had, but we'll assume he had like 10 jack of clubs, and this guy just threw away $300 by not calling.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Good hand, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.